wanted to spend literally 1.5 minutes just saying, giving you a little bit of background on resist, reimagine, rebuild, which we're kind of shortening and we call R3. So after the election of number 45, we came together, yeah, you have to, right? A bunch of activists, scholars, and artists came together on the South Side to share our concerns. We didn't know what would come of the meetings, but nevertheless, every Thursday evening we met, we discussed, we consoled each other, and what we knew is that we would need each other going forward. At the time, we were called What Next? ? What now? Right? It seemed appropriate. But over time, after subsequent meetings, we renamed ourselves, and for a particular reason. We came together to resist repressive policies and neo-fascist tactics. We came together to reimagine the future in an anti-racist, anti-capitalist, anti-xenophobic, anti-imperialist, and a queer environment. We came together to rebuild our communities. Our communities have been assaulted, and we know that we need to rebuild and take responsibility for rebuilding our communities. So resist, reimagine, rebuild is R3.
I want to say 3 things about Martin Luther King Jr. and about this day. And the first thing I want to say about King is that this is not about King. I want to say that as Ella Baker did, Martin Luther King didn't make the movement made Martin. When we look at the King's Beyond Vietnam speech in 1967, 50 years ago today, we see the theme of internationalism and a critique of materialism and racial capitalism. We also see the following year, when King is in Memphis alongside sanitation workers, another example of his commitment to class struggle, to understanding and elevating the connection between race and class. In King's 1967 speech delivered in Riverside Church in New York, he came out against US militarism, US imperialism, and he was called out for that. Everyone loves him now, but they didn't love him then. He was criticized on the pages of the New York Times and in many other places. Many of his liberal backers abandoned him. And you know what the critical question was? They said, you know, you are a respectable Negro leader. And this is not an appropriate thing for a respectable Negro leader to be talking about, right? Retreat to those designated safe issues that we think Black people ought to be talking about. And it was a point at which King was rejecting the mantle of a respectable Negro leader. And the critical question there was that he was being asked and asking himself is, who are my people, right? And so he was not saying Black people are my people, but also the people in Vietnam are my people, a whole range of people are my people, and I'm gonna speak out broadly about that. And just as King refused to be complicit in the dehumanization of the Vietnamese people, we refuse to be complicit in the continued oppression of the Palestinian people. Secondly, I want to talk about 1968, 1 year after King's historic Beyond Vietnam speech, where he came out against the war in Vietnam. King died fighting alongside sanitation workers. He could have been anywhere in the world. He could have been in very lofty company. He could have been dining in a very fancy place. But he chose to march and stand alongside Black sanitation workers who were fighting for dignity and fighting for their very lives. Now, in concluding, I just want to embrace and hold up another famous quote by King, and that is, what you will remember is not the words of your enemies, but the silence of your friends. What you will remember is not the words of your enemy, all the nonsense that Donald Trump and his rogues gallery say about us and our people, right? That is not what we're going to remember. That is not what's going to matter the most. It is whether our friends, our neighbors, our comrades, our sisters and brothers Stand up with us and speak out, right? And another quote is, silence is sometimes betrayal. So we cannot be silent when the racist police in Chicago kill one of our children. We cannot be silent when transit workers are struggling for a contract. We cannot be silent when one of our sisters working at McDonald's is sexually harassed. We cannot be silent when our undocumented brothers and sisters are stigmatized and threatened with exile.
I'm Valerie. I'm a member of the Chicago chapter of BYP 100, also known as Black Youth Project 100. We're an organization of young Black people ages 18 to 35 years old with 7 chapters and counting across the country. We're trying to create a world where the humanity of all Black people is recognized and respected. We do this out of a deep pride and love for our people. BYP 100 operates through the lens of Black queer feminism because it forces us to be radically inclusive as we seek liberation for Black people. The U.S. claims to be a country where hard work will give you opportunities to prosper. We live in the richest nation in the world, yet by and large, Black people lack access to the very, very basic things we need to survive. We reject the idea that there are just a few bad apples in our system of policing. The creation of the institution of policing was motivated by racism during the times of slavery, and racist policing practices continue today. We are harassed, sexually assaulted, beaten, and killed by the very police we pay to protect us, and there is no real way to hold them accountable. The policing and incarceration of Black bodies is profitable for our government and for corporations. Chicago invests nearly 40% of the city budget into policing, yet gun violence in our communities persists. Policing hasn't made our communities safer. It has done the opposite.
Now, it's not the first time ever, but we have white supremacists in the White House. Trump and Bannon and Priebus and all the rest are racist and sexist and homophobic. And this is why the R3 Coalition was formed, to build a broad and diverse resistance to these policies. When Trump announced his Muslim ban, the AAAN responded immediately and helped mobilize over 5,000 people to shut down a section of O'Hare Airport that weekend.
But the reason why I'm here is because I'm representing CPAC. CPAC stands for Civilian Police Accountability. We want to hold the police accountable for their actions. And we want to hold the police accountable for police brutality, accountable for bringing the violence to our communities. We want to hold Kim Foxx accountable for releasing 100 torture victims. We want these torture victims released. They have been in police custody since they was like 13, 14 years old. We demand that they be released.
Like I said, I work for McDonald's, and McDonald's is the second largest private sector employer in the world. In the world, not just the US. And we're fighting so we can achieve the kind of justice, opportunity, and financial security that we deserve. And when we do that, we, in the Fight for 15, are carrying on Dr. King's Poor People's Campaign. We are still fighting for the dream. Can you believe that? We're still fighting. We're in the Fight for 15. We know that without economic justice, there is no racial justice. And that without racial justice, there is no economic justice. This is why we have taken the fight directly to McDonald's. McDonald's makes billions of dollars in profit. Billions. I said profit. They can afford to pay us $15 an hour, and we have the right to form our union. Just like the sanitation workers that Dr. King marched with in Memphis, they were fighting for living wages and safe working conditions, just like we are. Does it sound familiar? So McDonald's is standing in the way for justice for Black and brown workers. That is why I need you, we need you guys to march with us on McDonald's in Oak Brook for their shareholders meeting on May 23rd. We've got to take the fight for economic and racial justice to the front door of the second largest employer of the world. Are you with me? Are you guys with me? May 23rd? All right, guys, repeat after me. McDonald's. We demand 15. We demand union rights. We demand union rights. Thank you, and we in the Fight for 15 are not giving up our fight for economic and racial injustice and liberation for all, and we won't stop until we win. Thank you.